My first NFL predictions as a 35-year-old man. I can't imagine they're going to get better. Grossi, Posse, Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, a podcast where you don't do Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom, but honestly, I'm doing okay this season, so maybe Grossi. And today, we are going to be breaking down and predicting each game in the Week 3 slate. But before we do that, we got to take a look back at last week. Last week, I went a very respectable 14-2, which gives me an overall record this season of 26-6. If it wasn't for that Indiana Jones, I would have only gotten one game wrong. And that is going to be the new plot of the new Indiana Jones movie. And while that record is definitely not too bad, there is one person who has a much better record in the pick'ems, and that is Grant Adams, who is in sole possession of first place with a 31-1 record. We had 10 folks who had a perfect record heading into week 2, and now there are no more perfect pick'ems, but Grant, a huge congratulations. You sit atop the pick'ems throne. Starting off with Thursday night football. Oh boy. You got the Miami Dolphins taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Dolphins. Things aren't going so well, and if you had to ask Dolphins fans right now, I would say they're probably not looking forward to this game.
We only 2 weeks into this damn thing, and I'm ready to give up!
The Dolphins have had a tough go of things, and while they had a much better week 2 compared to week 1, and it was much better because they actually had an offense, Tua didn't do completely awful, Tyreek Hill had a nice game, and they scored more than 8 points, things are still not going great with Miami. You have Mike McDaniel, who's not doing so hot at press conferences. The team itself, especially the defense, Joe Barry's definitely not helping there, is not looking too great. And overall for the Dolphins, in a very pivotal year where you needed to see something from Tua, you needed to kind of see some progress with this team overall, it just feels like they're stuck running on a treadmill right now. And unfortunately for them, they lost to the Patriots this past Sunday, a game that they definitely could have won, but with a defense that really does not have an identity besides not doing well, and an offense that still is sputtering at times, things are looking pretty dire for the Dolphins. We are definitely not in must-win game territory here, but the Dolphins at least have to make this competitive, and that's going to be tough going up against the reigning defending AFC East champs, the Buffalo Bills. After an insane Week 1 comeback win against the Ravens, the Bills gave their fans at least a little bit of a more relaxed game. Knocking around the Jets, unfortunately, Justin Fields did leave that game early with a concussion. On top of that, Josh Allen got his nose smashed in, bloody and all, was still able to lead his team to a victory, mostly on the back of James Cook, who had a phenomenal game this past Sunday. And heading into this game, it is a divisional rival, so you never know. These games could definitely get wonky. We've seen some crazy primetime games between these two in the past, but just looking on paper, it feels really tough to even consider the Dolphins. As of picking this game on ESPN today during the Pick'em Leagues, only 1% of people picked the Dolphins to win, and I think that tracks. The Dolphins have to prove that they're a competitive team this season, and while they definitely did look better on Sunday, I don't give them much hope heading into this game against the Bills. Maybe Tua can have some magic if he can reduce those turnovers, if they can get the ground game going. Maybe they can pull off the upset, but for right now, being played in Buffalo, I gotta go with the Bills. Following that, you got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Packers having one of the best starts that you could possibly imagine. The Packers are in sole possession of the NFC North after 2 weeks, sitting at 2-0. They knocked off the Lions, they knocked off the Commanders, and I cannot stop getting excited about how lethal this defense looks.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
And there's a lot to be excited about. Of course, the addition of Micah Parsons, who has been on a snap count. He has been disruptive in both games that we've seen him play in so far, allowing others to get after the quarterback. The run defense has been great. They've held the Commanders and the Lions combined to under 100 yards, which is incredibly impressive. And the offense has been pretty damn good too. Of course, Jaden Reed just got collarbone and foot surgery, so he's going to be out for a time, probably between a month and a half to 2 months. And so this might allow guys like Matthew Golden, who has a great separation rate right now over the first 2 weeks of football, to potentially get some more targets. I know some fantasy owners are waiting for that. But one of the big things about the Packers that they have to get established is their run game. Josh Jacobs has had a touchdown in each of the 2 matchups, but it's definitely been some tough running to get some yards. They're going to be going up against the Cleveland Browns this week, who did a really nice job against Derrick Henry, which is why Josh Jacobs might have a tough time this week. However, yeah, they forgot all about Lamar Jackson, who absolutely torched them on Sunday. The Ravens blew out the Cleveland Browns. And for the Browns, they usually have a pretty good defense. Of course, they have Myles Garrett, who is still a phenomenal player, and the Packers are going to have to contend with him. We'll see what the Packers O-line looks like, as they were missing 2 starters last week against the Commanders. So that may be a challenge, and maybe the pass rush can get after Jordan Love, and if they can stop the run, the Cleveland Browns have a chance here. But taking a look at this game, especially on the offensive side of the ball for Cleveland, there's just not enough going on to give me some pause of that the Packers defense can stop them. Again, they were able to stop the Lions, and the Lions proved this past week against the Bears that offense is still pretty damn good. You look at the Commanders and their offense, and they had a top 3 rushing team last year. And while Judkins had his first start and did decently well this past Sunday, I think the Packers should be able to take control of this game, whether it's getting after Joe Flacco or stopping the run game. I like the Packers defense against their offense. I also think the Packers offense should be able to efficiently move the ball as long as they don't turn it over, which they haven't done these past 2 games. And so because of that, I'm going with the Packers to get the AFC North win. It's their first road game, and next week, they're against the Dallas Cowboys. Following that, you got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Colts, oh boy, sitting at 2-0 with Indiana frickin' Jones. And I gotta be honest, it looked like the Broncos had won that game on Sunday.
Eternal life. What is happening to me?
You chose poorly.
The Broncos chose poorly. But the Colts, we got to talk about them. Starting 2-0, Daniel Jones has been incredibly efficient over these first 2 weeks. The offensive line is looking good. Jonathan Taylor's good. And that defense looks a lot better than what we saw last season. And so I don't know how for real the Colts are, but they're giving a lot of indication that they could be favored in the AFC South, which is pretty crazy because heading into the season, many people, including myself, assumed they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And of course, starting 2-0 means diddly squat. There is still plenty of football to be played. But Daniel Jones having a good run game and actually a good O-line, probably for the first time in his entire career. We saw what he was able to do when Saquon was able to go off when he was a Giant. And so maybe this is just the rebirth, the renaissance of one Daniel Jones. They're going to be taking on the Tennessee Titans, who are looking for a renaissance themselves, and they might be hoping for a rebirth at the head coaching position, as Callahan has not been too great over the past 2 weeks. Cam Ward has definitely shown some flashes, and so I think there's a lot to be excited about. But looking at that offensive line, the guy has already gotten sacked 11 times behind that O-line, and while they did make some acquisitions during the offseason, it doesn't look like it's paying off as of yet. You look at the defense, and of course you have guys like Big Jeff who stand out, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to slow down Daniel Jones. This is being played in Nashville, and considering it's a divisional game, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually pretty close. However, I'm going to continue with the hot hand and pick the Colts to win this game. I do think if they're able to establish the run and Daniel Jones does not turn the ball over, they should be able to get the job done. We'll see how Cam Ward looks against this Colts defense. He's done okay besides, being sacked all those times over the past couple of weeks against some tough defenses. But here, I got the Colts getting the win, unless Cam Ward can play spoiler. Following that, this is going to be something. You got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Well, for both these teams, they've had quite the eventful week.
I live to fight another day, but at what cost?
Oh, boy, I know the feeling. What a week, huh?
Lemon, it's Wednesday, but it's not all
Both teams losing their starting quarterback, one for a little bit longer than the other, but Joe Burrow is going to be out for a minimum of 3 months. He has to get surgery on a grade 3 turf toe, which I just hope he's able to recover quickly because this is a pretty significant blow for the Bengals, who looked pretty good this past Sunday, at least if you're Jamar Chase or Trey Hendrickson. That defense, as we talked about on Power Rankings, definitely looks like it's taken a step from last season, and there was a lot to be excited about as a Bengals fan. You bring back Jamar Chase, you bring back Hendrickson for at least a year, you bring back T. Higgins, and ultimately, while Jake Browning is a good quarterback, and I think he's going to win them a few games, it definitely sucks to see Joe Burrow is going to miss the vast majority of the season. Maybe he'll be back in time for the postseason if they make it that far. They're going to be taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who are having plenty of injury woes themselves. Not only did they have a bunch of defensive starters and offensive linemen out this past Sunday against the Falcons, but now J.J. McCarthy's injured, Aaron Jones is on IR, and it just seems like that offense is getting decimated. And so they're going to be rocking with Carson Wentz this Sunday. That's right, Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz, the battle that everybody's been waiting for. And this game, it could go either way. Carson Wentz, I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to operate that Vikings offense a little bit better than J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy only starting in 2 games, and while Carson Wentz is definitely not as good as he used to be, he could still operate an offense, and when you have guys like Justin Jefferson or T.J. Hawkinson or hell, even Jordan Mason to hand the ball to, you could definitely have worse options. But taking on Cincinnati here, I'm actually going to go with the Bengals to get the win. The Vikings offense definitely did not look good against the Falcons, and the Falcons caused a bunch of turnovers, but on top of that, they were able to get after the quarterback multiple times. And here, Carson Wentz, I don't think he's going to be the most mobile QB. And so Trey Hendrickson might have himself a really good game. And on top of that, we've seen Jake Browning with this offense before. He's definitely able to make it go. So because of that, I'm going with Cincinnati to get the win. And for the Vikings, yeah, they just got to heal up quick. Following that, you got an AFC showdown between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. The Steelers, woof. Rough week against the Seattle Seahawks as they suffered their first loss of the season. And taking a look at that game, there's a bunch of things that you can point to as to what went wrong with Pittsburgh. You could take a look at their defense, which has not looked great over the past couple of weeks. You could take a look at their special teams and not knowing the rules about how new kickoffs work. Or you could look at Aaron Rodgers, who after this past Sunday might be wondering if he's still got it.
Am I so out of touch? No. It's the children who are wrong.
But after winning week 1 and they went toe-to-toe with the Jets, there's a little bit of concern with the Steelers heading into this week against the Patriots. The Patriots were able to pull off a big win against the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday, and while, as we spoke about, the Dolphins are definitely not a great football team at the moment, Drake May did look better, the protection looked better, and of course that defense has been good for the past couple weeks. And this is a really interesting matchup because I'm curious to see how that Steelers defense is going to look against Drake May, who is still a very young quarterback. If that Patriots offense is going to be able to take another step and continue to progress this season and build on last week's win. There's a lot of factors here, and Aaron Rodgers is going against a very good defense. TJ Watt, who's been pretty darn quiet for the first 2 weeks of the season, is he going to be able to get after Drake May and this offensive line? That's a big question mark. I don't know how the run game is going to look against Pittsburgh, but if the Steelers are at least able to avoid gifting their opponents touchdowns, I do think the Steelers should be able to win. You also saw some special teams fireworks in that Patriots-Dolphins game, so who knows? Special teams might be what determines the winner here. I think this will be a close game. I'm not really too confident in my pick, but I'm going with the Steelers to get the W, and we'll see if Aaron Rodgers looks better this week. Following that, you got a tale of 2 undefeated teams. You got the LA Rams taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Rams, over the past 2 weeks, you had Puka Nacua going off on week 1, Devontae Adams having a great week 2, and overall, this Rams team is looking pretty darn balanced. They've established the run game, Matthew Stafford is looking pretty solid, and as long as they're able to keep him upright this entire season, I still think the Rams have a very good shot at winning the NFC West, though it is still very early. They're going to be taking on the reigning defending Super Bowl champs, and the last time that these 2 teams played was in the divisional round last year, and it was a very good game. That pass rush of the Rams still looks pretty damn good. I love Jared Verse, and he has just been unstoppable since coming into the league. And the Eagles O-line, they're going to have their hands full. The Eagles, of course, coming away with a big win against the Chiefs last week. Jalen Hurts had just barely over 100 yards passing, but again, doesn't really matter because they still got the win. Their defense definitely looked a lot better with Jalen Carter, but I still think both teams are still trying to find their identity heading into this 2025 season, and this should be a very close game. Now, of course, this past Sunday, there was some controversy as there were some false starts that were not flagged against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm just saying, seems like a lot of teams are all of a sudden changing their tune on how they feel about the tush push.
I don't think it should be banned.
We believe it's evil and should be banned.
Can you explain to me why it should be banned?
It's blasphemous and it should be banned.
Packers tried to stop him. I'm just saying, they tried to stop him. But taking a look at this game being played in Philadelphia, I got the Eagles winning. I do think they have the better defense, and while I do think the Rams have a better pass rush, the offensive line of the Eagles is still pretty damn good. Jalen Hurts has been really efficient over these past 2 weeks, and he's been playing some really good, clean football. And of course, you always have Saquon Barkley in case that doesn't work out. So here, I'm going to go with the Eagles to continue their undefeated streak and still be the team to beat in the NFC. Then you got the New Jersey Jets taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Jets not having a great day against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Justin Fields suffered a concussion in that game. Tyrod Taylor had to come in, and Tyrod Taylor is also going to be the starter this upcoming Sunday, which honestly, I don't think it bodes well very much for the Jets. They're going to be taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had a great game this past Monday, and it was only great if you didn't like blocking, because good God, man, no offensive lines to be found in that Texans-Buccaneers game. However, Baker Mayfield put the game on his back on a scramble. It looked like he may have injured his leg on a play, but then he saw C.J. Gardner-Johnson chirping a bit. Baker Mayfield is just that guy, and he deserves a ton of props. He was great last season. It's a great start to this upcoming season, and if he's able to remain consistent, especially when guys like Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs are out, this Buccaneers team is going to be a force to be reckoned with later this year. And for the Buccaneers, I really like their team right now. I think they're one of the more balanced teams in football. You have Rashad White and Bucky Irving, who can definitely run the ball efficiently. On top of that, Igbuka has been a really nice addition so far. He had that big week 1 game, and while he was a little bit quieter in week 2, that's what you have Mike Evans for. And here, going up against an injured Jets team, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get the win. I don't think it's going to be necessarily close, and Baker is going to continue to bake. Then you got the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Washington Commanders. Oof, speaking of Monday night games, the Raiders not having a fun time against the LA Chargers, dropping to 1-1 this season. And Raiders fans, yeah, they got to check in on Geno after that performance on Monday night.
Are you seeing bright lights or hearing voices?
I'm quite well, thank you.
No, clearly you are not. No rational person would do as you have done. Explain yourself.
Multiple interceptions, the O-line didn't look great, and on top of that, the run game couldn't get going. And Geno, man, he was forcing a ton of passes into double coverage, and overall, it just seems like the Raiders were a bit lost. They had opportunities to win that game, especially some late fumbles by the Chargers, but unfortunately for that offense, they were not able to put it together. And you definitely can't blame the defense for that, because that defense did more than enough keeping them in that football game. They're going to be taking on the Washington Commanders, and honestly, this is going to be a really interesting game. The Commanders losing this past week after a short trip to Lambeau Field, and unfortunately, not only did they leave with the loss, but with some injuries as well. Austin Eckler out for the season. On top of that, Jaden Daniels has a knee sprain that he is day-to-day working through. And so his status as of recording this video is still unknown against the Raiders. Because while that Commanders offense didn't look good against that Packers defense, this Raiders defense is not anything to shrug your head at either. And so this game could come down to the wire. We might be seeing Marcus Mariota as the starter in Washington, which would definitely be less than ideal. And honestly, this might turn into a low-scoring defensive game, and I could go either way. If Jaden Daniels plays, I think the Commanders can do enough to win. Max Crosby might be in the backfield a whole lot, but Jaden Daniels can run on a sprained knee, I guess. I don't know. I hope he can run fast. But overall, I do think the Commanders have enough weapons that they should be able to put up enough points against this Raiders defense. The way the Raiders, I think, win is if they're constantly getting in the backfield, if they're able to slow down the run, and if they're finally able to establish Ashton Genty, who's had a little bit of a tough 2 weeks, but here going up against this Commanders defense, maybe he can finally have a breakthrough, and that's how I can see the Raiders winning. But here, as of right now, I'm going with Jaden Daniels if he's playing with the Commanders. Following that, you got an NFC South showdown between the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons, that defense was flying all over the field on Sunday night against J.J. McCarthy and that Minnesota Vikings team. The rookies were sensational. You had interceptions, you had sacks, and all of a sudden, Atlanta, it seems like you have a defense. Don't worry, I won't say it too loud because I know it's very hard to believe. On top of that, looking at Michael Penix, he has been having a very efficient 2 weeks. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, great in the run game. And hell, even Kyle Pitts is catching some footballs. Maybe they're finally turning the page in Atlanta. They're going to be taking on the Carolina Panthers, and unfortunately, Bryce Young's year 3 as a starter is not going so well. And Panthers fans,
We mustn't panic. We mustn't panic.
but yeah, optimism might be back to an all-time low in Carolina. And here's the thing, the Panthers were able to battle back against the Cardinals, and they made it a close game at the very end. And hell, the Panthers had opportunities to win that football game. Unfortunately, not only do you have a few penalties, but Bryce Young was unable to get it done and really struggled in that last drive. And ultimately, the Panthers are still sitting here winless. They're going to be taking on a Falcons team that I think has a ton of momentum so far. I mentioned before, they have a good ground game. Their defense is looking really good. And so because of that, I am going to go with Atlanta to get the divisional win here. This should be really big for the Falcons after losing against the Buccaneers, another divisional opponent. And for Panthers fans, you're just hoping to see some progress from Bryce Young. Just give me a little bit of hope that he is the guy, and then they'll be happy. They don't even need to win the game, but it would help. But I don't think they will. Falcons win. Then, you got the Houston Texans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. An AFC South matchup, and yeah, this one is really tough to try and predict. The Texans this past Monday, yikes, that Stroud's O-line looks like they're rebelling against CJ.
He does.
CJ Stroud was under siege the entire evening. While Nick Chubb was able to have that late touchdown, which looked pretty good, CJ Stroud was also running, but for his life, because that was a really rough game to watch if you are a fan of Texans offense. The good news is the defense is looking really good. That pass rush is looking good. You can still get pressure. I still love how the secondary looks, but ultimately for the Texans, they have to figure something out on offense. They have to be more consistent with the run game, and I know they're missing Joe Mixon right now, but CJ Stroud needs to not only improve, he also needs time to throw the ball. They're going to be going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are unable to get a win against the Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals this past Sunday. Another team that had multiple opportunities to get the win, and while they looked really good in week 1 with Travis Etienne and that defense, things got away from them a little bit in that Sunday game against the Bengals. They weren't able to close out the game. Again, they had multiple opportunities, and while they're brushing off the Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence interaction, Trevor Lawrence does need to play better. And here, it's going to be tough going against this Texans defense. And so the reason I'm struggling with this game is because I do believe in the Jaguars offense a little bit more, and I do think they have an improved defense that can get pressure on CJ Stroud, because I think just about anybody can get pressure on CJ Stroud right now. The trouble that I'm having is that Texans defense is really good, and we're about to see how good that offensive line for Jacksonville really is. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is another low-scoring game and it comes down to defenses, and here I would favor the Strouds with that because their defense is better than the Jaguars. However, I'm going to go with the Jaguars to get a win here. It's being played in Jacksonville, and I think if Trevor Lawrence can avoid any turnovers and can stay upright for the majority of the game, I just believe in their offense more than I believe in the Texans' offense right now. Because again, yeah, that O-line looks really, really bad. So here, I'm going to go with the Jaguars to get the win. I would not be surprised at all if the Texans were able to squeak one away, and it would likely be because of their defense. But who knows? Maybe they remember how to block this week, and CJ Stroud can stand back in the pocket for more than 2 seconds. Following that, you got an AFC West showdown between the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. Both these teams looking to lead the way of the new AFC West.
I'd say I'm Dirty Dan.
I'd say I'm Dirty Dan.
I'm Dirty Dan.
I'm Dirty Dan.
because the Chiefs are not doing so hot right now. But the Broncos, one way they're not going to lead is by having leverage penalties. Had opportunities and basically won that game against the Colts, but an unfortunate leverage penalty at the end of the game gave the Colts an ability to re-kick, and they got that game winner, and spelling out heartbreak for the Broncos. And taking a look at the Broncos for these first 2 weeks, week 1, their defense looked incredible. They got 6 sacks against the Titans with 6 different defenders. Their secondary is always really good. Their offense looked like poopy caca. Taking a look at week 2, the defense, they didn't look that great. The offense looked a lot better than what it was. Unfortunately, still had a turnover from Bo Nix, which definitely was not great. And overall, losing the game against the Colts. They're going to be taking on a Chargers team who I think is firing on all cylinders. Their defense over the past 2 weeks has looked great. They're able to stop the run. The secondary is looking good. And on offense, while Hampton is not looking the very best, Justin Herbert's playing efficient football. Quentin Johnston's having a good game. And Keenan Allen is looking like a fracking rookie out there. And so taking a look at this game being played in LA, this is a big game for the Chargers. They are in sole possession of the AFC West right now. And another win over a division rival would be really good later into the season. And while the Chargers almost let the Raiders back into that game, I do think they should be able to have control over this Broncos offense. I don't fully believe in them just yet. That run game is a bit suspect, and I don't think it's fully developed just yet, as they have a rookie running back there in RJ Harvey. And ultimately, I do think the Chargers will be able to move this ball against a Broncos defense that after week 2, I have some question marks about. So because of that, I'm going with the Chargers to remain undefeated and continue to reign in the AFC West. Then you got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Saints, I got to give them a whole lot of credit. Heading into the season, I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league. And while they haven't won a game, they definitely don't look like the worst team. Also, Spencer Rattler, pretty good. They were able to have a pretty good game against the 49ers. And yes, the 49ers had Mac Jones leading the way, but the Saints were able to run the ball efficiently. Spencer Rattler threw 3 touchdowns. And let's just say they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. Is that a good thing? I don't know, but it's something to hang your hat on. They're going to be taking on the Seattle Seahawks, who were able to have their first win of the season last week against the Steelers. And after that week 1 matchup against the 49ers, where their offense looked pretty damn bad, their offense took a big step this past week, establishing the run. Sam Darnold looked better. And ultimately for Seahawks fans, I think they're just happy to see a great defense once again.
God, I've missed you so much. I've missed you so much.
And that's the thing for the Seahawks. They definitely have potential. I love their defense under Mike McDonald. They have some absolute ballers on that side of the field. And on offense, if they can establish the run, and more importantly, if their running backs can stay healthy throughout the season, that is going to help Sam Darnold a ton. JSN is a great emerging receiver who got hot last season, and that's continuing into 2025. And overall, I do think the Seahawks should be able to win this game. No, they don't have Marshawn Lynch for the Beastquake this time. But after seeing that Seahawks offense win against the Steelers last week, I do think they should be able to take care of the Saints. We'll see how Spencer Rattler looks against a good defense in Seattle. But ultimately, I got Seattle getting the win, unless Alvin Kamara does a beastquake of his own. Then you got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Chicago Bears. The Cowboys, whew, close there, huh? Brandon Aubrey saving their asses against the Giants. Russell Wilson threw 450 yards against that Dallas Cowboys defense, which is so crazy. If only they had a guy like Micah Parsons, but hey, I'm not complaining. They're going to be taking on the Chicago Bears, who... yeah, that's a big yikes. While the Cowboys are giving up a ton of points and 450 yards to Russell Wilson and the Giants, the Bears, they gave up 51 points to the Lions, and NFL fans are starting to sell their stock in the Ben Johnson hype.
Bear Stearns stock has fallen more than 38%. Would you still buy more?
Yeah, sure. Of course I'd buy more. Why not?
Boom. A rough homecoming for Ben Johnson as he returned to Detroit last week, as the Bears were just outmatched that entire game. They went toe-to-toe with the Vikings, which now does not look as impressive in week 1, but were unable to win that football game. And again, the Bears defense shows some promise, but then it seems like they get gassed. On top of that, Caleb Williams is definitely not playing his best. You could point to the O-line or lack of run game, but at the end of the day, it does look like it's a newer offense just trying to find its footing. They are going to have a tough time, though, against the Cowboys because, as we know, the Cowboys can put up a ton of points, and we don't know if the Bears can do that just yet. And again, while their defense has shown some signs of life, by the time it gets to the fourth quarter, it seems like it's too late and the Bears are out of the game. So here, I am going to go with the Dallas Cowboys to get the win. Being played at Soldier Field, I think will give an advantage to the Bears because Dak does have to play outside, and maybe that's going to slow down that offense a little bit. However, we'll see if Javonte Williams can continue to have the nice season that he's having, and if they're able to establish the run against this Bears team and air it out to CeeDee Lamb, I do think the Cowboys will get the win, meaning the Bears will start 0-3, and I don't even know if the Pope can save you at this point. Then, a very intriguing NFC West matchup between two undefeated teams. You got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The Cardinals, good God, can you just finish out a game? Please, the first 2 weeks, they're looking good, they're looking fine. Oh, let's let the Saints come back. Oh, let's let the Panthers come back. Can you just be normal? They had 12 penalties this past Sunday, and as my dark horse representative, what are you doing, Arizona? Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to play better after having a very good week 1. And while there definitely are some positives, Trey McBride still looks great, that defense looks like it's better from last season, they don't need to make it so difficult. They're going to be taking on the San Francisco 49ers, who, after a very good game this past Sunday from Mac Jones, the question is he coming for Brock Purdy's job?
You're trash, Brock. Excuse me? Look, I'm begging you. If you do this, I will lose everything.
Probably not, but it's fun to talk about. Taking a look at the 49ers this season, the thing that has been consistent over the first 2 weeks has been their defense. The return of Robert Saleh has been evolutionary for that defense, and they definitely missed him because the defense in previous years has not been so great. Taking a look on the offensive side of the ball, Mac Jones was able to efficiently lead the team to victory against the Saints last week. Christian McCaffrey had himself a pretty nice day, and overall, I think Mac Jones is going to be just fine while Brock Purdy mends from his injury. Now, of course, talking about the 49ers, they're dealing with the injury bug as well. Besides Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk are also banged up, and this could actually be a really close game, and I went back and forth here. While the Cardinals did sweep the 49ers last year, the 49ers were definitely not at full strength, I don't think ever throughout the entire season, as half their team was on IR. And before that, the 49ers basically had the Cardinals numbers for the past 4 games. So taking a look here, while the 49ers are definitely not at full strength, I'm actually going to pick San Fran to still get the win. I just believe in that defense a little bit more than the Cardinals right now. And again, I think this game could go either way. Kyler Murray, we'll see what kind of game he's able to have against Robert Saleh's defense. And if they're able to establish the run with James Conner, I could see the Cardinals winning this football game, especially if that pass rush is able to get after Mac Jones. However, after seeing Mac Jones this past Sunday, I know it's a completely different team. It's obvious that he can operate that offense. If CMC can get things going, I think the 49ers will just be able to squeak away a win, or who knows, maybe it'll come down to a field goal, but they don't have Jake Moody anymore. So because of that, going 49ers. Then on Sunday Night Football, you got the 0-2 Chiefs taking on the 0-2 Giants in primetime.
All the stars are here.
It's true.
Beardy Man, Claude Racine, Dax Flame.
What a matchup. Before the season started, this was the Sunday Night Football game that I circled, and not because I was anticipating it. I was circling it and then putting a question mark going, why in God's name is this on Sunday night? But now, this could be pretty fun. The Chiefs starting the season 0-2, losing against the Chargers in Brazil and losing their home opener against the Eagles this past Sunday. However, I will say the Chiefs looked a lot better, just like the Giants did as well. Their defense was able to contain the Eagles for the majority of that game, and if it wasn't for a Travis Kelce drop that resulted in an interception, the Chiefs could have won that football game. The problem with the Chiefs right now is they basically have no wide receivers. No Xavier Worthy, no Rashee Rice, and they don't have a run game besides Patrick Mahomes. And so because of that, their offense is not looking too great. They're going to be taking on the Giants, who looked insanely better against the Cowboys than they did week 1 against the Commanders. After a very rough week 1 outing for Russell Wilson, he came back and threw 450 yards. And while he did throw a pretty bad interception at the end of that game, the Giants showed they're at least going to have some life and be somewhat competitive this season, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which was my major concern. It's going to be interesting to see if the Giants can establish the run against this Chiefs defense, as they've been able to hold both the Chargers and the Eagles at bay pretty much on the ground. And while guys like Malik Neighbors, it's going to be tough to contain him regardless because he is just a special player. We'll see if Russell Wilson can replicate his success from this past Sunday. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher going up against a better defense. Here, I got the Chiefs getting a win. I could see this being a blowout. I could see this being a close game based off Sunday's results, but I do think the Chiefs get their first win of the season. I believe in their offense, and while they are struggling, maybe they're able to establish the run with Isaiah Pacheco, and I do think that defense will be able to limit Russell Wilson and hold him to 200 yards and not 450. And who knows, maybe even some turnovers. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to get the win on Sunday night, and if they lose, oh boy, the internet's going to explode. And finally, this is going to be a good one. On Monday Night Football, you got the Detroit Lions taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Lions scoring 52 points this past Sunday against the Chicago Bears. So I think it's safe to say that offense got their mojo back, and they're hoping it carries into Monday night.
We did it, pal.
We sure did.
Jared Goff could do no wrong this past Sunday. 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The sun god having 3 touchdowns. The defense was able to limit whatever the hell the Bears were trying to do. And this offense looked a lot more like the #1 scoring offense that we saw last season from the Lions than whatever we saw in week 1 against that Packers defense. They're going to be taking on the Baltimore Ravens, who were able to have that easy win against the Cleveland Browns. And while they weren't able to get Derrick Henry going, we talked about this before, Lamar Jackson still having a great game. That's back-to-back great games for Lamar Jackson. And even though they were on the losing side of the Bills game in week 1, the Ravens offense, they know how to score plenty of points, back-to-back weeks of at least 40 points. And taking a look at this matchup, we were talking about this as the potential Super Bowl last season, and I think that this is going to be a shootout. Both defenses, I think there's some question marks in both of their secondaries, so I would not be surprised if both teams just start lighting it up on the scoreboard. Both teams have a good run game, one with Derrick Henry, the other with Montgomery and Gibbs, and both of them, of course, can air it out to very talented wide receivers. Ultimately, this game being played in Baltimore, I think, is going to make a major difference. And on top of that, I believe in the pass rush of the Ravens a little bit more than the Lions right now. I know Hutch got his first sack of the season last week. We'll see if he's going to be able to be effective against this Ravens O-line. But here, I think Baltimore might just be able to score more points than the Lions. Like I said, would not be surprised if this is just both offenses taking the field and we barely see any defense on Monday night. But I'm going with Baltimore to get the win. They can hand the ball to Derrick Henry, and we'll see if that Lions D can stop the run. But yeah, Ravens get the win, and Lions, the real kings of the North, are back. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who do you got winning in these week 3 games? Let me know. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiCounty.com, and a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.